held at Parliament Chamber, Mount Weldale, St. George's, on Wednesday, the 18th December 2024 at 9 a.m. be confirmed. Those of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it. The minutes are confirmed.
Item 5, messages from the Governor General. Item 6, announcements by Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, I have been advised that the leader of the opposition won't be with us in today's sitting. I have also been advised that Honourable Lennox Andrew, MP for St. Andrews South West, won't be with us either. He had a death in his family, and as such, he won't be able to make it to the sitting. Of course, we have to keep him and his family in our prayers, because death, even though it has been with us for as long as human being has existed, it is still a very difficult thing to deal with. So our prayers go with the Honourable Lennox Andrew in this situation. I wish to also say in this Honourable House that a number of bills have received the assent from the Governor General since they were passed in both houses of Parliament. The Bank Holiday Amendment Act 2024 has received the assent. The Tax Administration Amendment Act 2024, Terrorism Amendment Act 2024, Proceeds of Crime Amendment Act 2024, Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Act 2024, and the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court Judicial Officers Pension Act 2024. Right, and I wish to announce also that the Honourable MP for the town of St. George is no longer a member of the New National Party. Those are my announcements.
Item 7, presentation of petitions. Item 8, presentation of papers and reports from select committees. Item 9, unopposed private business. Item 10, questions. Item 11, urgent questions under the provisions of Standing Order number 21, subsection 1, notice of question. Item 12, statement by ministers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take the morning to everyone, and let me take this opportunity to wish everyone a very productive 2025. Mr. Speaker, allow me to update this Honourable House of some of the very important initiatives under the ministry. Mr. Speaker, the issue of lighting of the cricket stadium, and I want to highlight Progress Park since it's so very important to us in St. Andrew. We promised to light the Progress Park in 2025, and I'm pleased to report that we are one step closer in realizing that reality. The tendering process has been completed. Contractor has already signed the contract, but more than that, Mr. Speaker, a down payment, a according to the contract, was made to the contractor, and so very soon we'll have the cricket stadium being done for us by the same contractor, and the Progress Park, which is part of our upgrade and our improvement as it relates to sporting facilities across Grenada. As a government, we have promised that we will improve sporting facilities across Grenada, and so this is a start of what we'll see in 2025. Mr. Speaker, last Saturday, I had the privilege of attending the Youth Explosion event in Carriacou under the theme Resilient Rising, Rebuilding Hope After the Storm. The event was a powerful showcase of our youth's creativity, entrepreneurial spirit, and resilience. Through vibrant booths, talent display, and meaningful engagement, the young people of Carriacou and Petite Martinique remind us that they are not just the leaders of tomorrow, but they are the change makers of today. Our government remains committed to supporting their growth through youth programs, entrepreneurial initiative, and cultural development, empowering them to overcome challenges and thrive. Mr. Speaker, this is part of activities in 2025 for young people. So this kind of activity or similar activities will be duplicated across Grenada, and so we look forward in 2025 to working and providing all the necessary support to our young people. I thank you.
Thank you, MP for St. Andrew Northwest. Honorable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to you. Good morning to honorable members of the House, and Happy New Year in the event I have not had the opportunity to say so to members of the House individually. Mr. Speaker, I just wish to provide some updates to the public in relation to work being undertaken by the Home Affairs Department to digitize certain aspects of our operation. Starting with applications for citizenship, we are earnestly on our way to digitizing the process. We expect that by the end of this month, we would be in a position to internally go live with a fully automated and digital process. We expect that within the following month, we should be in a position where the application process as well as the certification process for persons applying for citizenship, whether it be via the Citizenship by Investment or the Investment Migration Program, or whether it be via the traditional naturalization route, or whether it be by share residency in Grenada, will be fully digitized. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we are also moving ahead with having more kiosks installed at the Morris Bishop International Airport, with the view to having our embarkation card, or what is called the ED card, also being done fully online. I think for most of us, having to fill out this paper ED card is an annoyance. There's no other way to put it. So we are working steadfastly to have this done so that it could be done electronically. I've asked why we couldn't eliminate it altogether. But for security reasons, we are not yet in that position to do so. And the main security reasons would be, most people would ask, for example, when you go into the United States, you don't need to fill out an ED card. And that's because the United States has a visa regime in place that essentially takes all of your biometrics in advance, so that by the time you land in the US, they pretty much know everything about you already. We don't have that biometric system in place yet for all of our visitors or returning nationals. Hopefully, if we get it for nationals in particular, as we continue to work on those systems, then certainly nationals, we could get to a point where we eliminate the use of ED cards, even the electronic ones altogether, for our citizens. But that would require us to have a fully biometric system where either your fingerprint or your retina or some other biometrical data is collected on our citizens. So those are two areas that the Home Affairs Department is working steadfastly on. All things being equal, we expect that those systems will go fully live by the first quarter of 2025. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, the National Disaster Management Agency received 21 containers from the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center from the government and people of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in support of the government and people of Grenada. A lot of the aid that is contained in the containers, Mr. Speaker, will directly benefit the residents of Carriacou and Petite Martinique, but it will also significantly strengthen NADMA's ability to better prepare, predict, respond to, and help with the recovery efforts when dealing with natural disasters. The items delivered is a long list of items, but they include things like forklifts, which actually puts NADMA in a significantly improved position, because you'll appreciate that for storage in particular, the warehouses both in Carriacou and in Manjelu is of significant height. And so it allows us to be able to pack storage items much better and to be able to access them, remove them, and to help to distribute them. So it is significant aid. The aid is to the tune of $5.3 million, and it is the single largest aid package that we've received from any nation post-Hurricane Beryl. So we think it's fitting that we go on record to thank King Salman and King Salman's Center, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, and the government and people of Saudi Arabia for the kind donation. The ambassador who is accredited to Grenada is based in Venezuela, and he flew in personally to hand deliver the 21 containers. A similar donation has been made to the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So, Mr. Speaker, as I explained at the handover ceremony yesterday, when we travel for a reason. And the 21 containers is proof of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister. And I now invite the MP for St. George South East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want to update on some medical missions that are happening this month, January and into February. And we want to also express our appreciation to the visiting missions who have been coming to Grenada year after year, providing service to the population, much needed service. This time around, January 27th to 31st of January, as a matter of fact, I think it goes up to the 2nd of February, there's the Smiles, that they're offering dentistry services for the parishes of St. Patrick and St. Mark. So they will be in those parishes from the 27th, so it started already, 27th all the way up to the 2nd of February. St. John's is included, I'm told. So that means they might have visited you already then. Yeah, okay. So I have from the, all right. Also, Dr. McKinney's foundation continues to provide much needed OB/GYN services to Grenada. I think we had a very successful year last year in particular. Quite a number of surgeries were done, and he's back this year, January 29th and the 31st, to the 31st of January. He will be there leading that charge at the General Hospital, attending to those in need. Also, from the 31st of January to the 6th of February, SGU will be providing much needed general cardiology services, and that is under the auspices, well, SGU, but under the direction of Dr. Anthony Tano. And so that will be that's cardiology from the 31st to the 6th of February. Also, World Pediatrics, they are coming. They will be here on the 13th and 14th of February, providing pediatric services, pediatric orthopedic services, and under the direction of Dr. Gordon. So, also on the 17th to the 21st of February, SGU will be providing ophthalmology services under the direction of Dr. Bernard Spire. And from the 24th to the 28th of February, neurology services by SGU, by Dr. Richard Michelitas. So just alerting the population so that we take full use of these services. Most of it would be at the General Hospital, and also, in case clinics are going to be held elsewhere, I would want to encourage us to listen up to the media announcements for any change in services and locations. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, while I'm on my feet, I think I just want to make mention briefly that the matter of statutorization of the 3 state-owned hospitals, that is something that is going to happen. It's under consideration by Cabinet, and at the appropriate time, we will notify the nation as to the current status of things. So it's under consideration. And that it's important to say this because we have indicated that come 2025, statutorization is going to happen. And we have not changed our minds about it. We are working in the background trying to set things in order. Thank you.
Thank you, MP for St. George. Saudis?
Item 13, personnel explanations.
Oh, sorry.
MP for the town of St. George.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Morning, members. Mr. Speaker, I'm new to this. After over 20 years in Parliament, I've never had to sit as an independent. So I'm asking the question, how long do I have on this matter, personal explanations, so I know if that is where I need to speak? There are no seats over here. I will proceed if there is no.
Yeah, you can proceed. The standing order doesn't specify.
That is
but this
what
particular.
I was looking for it, and I saw no. But I will be reasonable, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
I
All
guess
right.
that is what you would ask of me. I'll be very, very reasonable.
Okay.
I'm
Why?
in the 10-minute rule, so I'll work with that.
Yeah, proceed,
Mr.
please.
Speaker, firstly, let me stand here today and let me pay tribute to the people of the town of St. George to start. It is because of them that I'm here. I've been here 4 times, Mr. Speaker, and the 4 times they have elected me to be here. I've been also in this house as a senator. It's really 5 terms. Mr. Speaker, let me say to them, and some of them are present in the house this morning, let me say to them that I do cherish and feel honored that they saw it fit to vote for me, to have me here, even if they did not support the party that I was a member of. I'll tell you why I say that. Because I won with LNP and I won with NDC. It must mean that there are people who came. despite political allegiance. So I just want to say to them, and through those sitting here, and to all of them who will be listening, I really do respect and feel, overwhelmed by the fact that they see in me someone who they have made, who they made represent them for 4 terms. For that, I am eternally grateful. Let me also thank my colleagues on this side of the House. Mr. Speaker, I have spent the last 2 terms with the colleagues here, and I must say this, that they are also tremendous servants of the people. Despite whatever issues you may hear and whatever issues they may be, I want to say to them that I do thank them for the assistance I've been given and for the honor I've been given to be a member of the New National Party. I also want to thank the leader of the opposition. He's not here this morning, I wish he was, so that I can thank him personally for his service as an MP, his service as a minister, prime minister, and now his service as leader of the opposition. Again, I want to thank him for allowing me the honor of serving with them in the parliament of this country. And it is as I entered as an independent, I felt, every time you come with a team. Both sides come with a team, so you figure you have a team with you, but now I come alone. And now I feel the awesome responsibility we have sitting in the citadel of democracy in our country. I feel it more. I'm more overwhelmed by it because it is me now, as an independent, as an individual, to speak on behalf of the people I represent and also on behalf of all the people in NNP, the people in NDC, and the people who are in no party, because there are a substantial amount of people who are in neither party. I think we always believe that the country is split 50-50 and each side is a member. No, some people vote. But of course, the fact that some win and some lose at different times means that they are people with no allegiance. So let me thank the members on this side for the honor of serving with them in this House. Let me also thank my colleagues on the other side. They're on the other side, but they're on the same side because they're on the side of Grenada. Despite the differences we may have, we all come here. And I repeat this all the time. People sometimes say, Peter, you say that too much. We all come here to do the people's business. We may disagree, but we are here for the single purpose. So I want to thank them for the privilege of serving with them, for the banter back and forth, for the camaraderie sometimes. Sometimes we appear to be angry, and I want to say this to the people outside. We appear to be angry, but the people should also be here when we're sitting, having lunch and talking together. We too many times give the people the impression we are angry with each other. We are not. We just disagree. But we are friends. We have lunch together, we have breakfast together, and my good friend Andy, we talk all the time because we disagree on issues, but we are friends, and that is what we want of Grenada. So, my friends, we are here to do the people's work. While I'm here as an independent member, I will continue to do the people's work. I will support the bills that I believe are in the interest of the people, oppose those I believe are not in the interest of the people, and give advice on those where I believe corrections can be made to make it more perfect for the people. I will continue to do that. Every morning I wake up thinking, how do I serve today? I serve in the courts, I serve in the parliament, I serve on the streets, I serve in the communities. And that is what I will continue to do. Colleagues, I come from a tradition of service. My mother was a public servant throughout her entire life, rose to the position of cabinet secretary. And so I understand service. My father, again, somebody who grew up quite poor, very poor, but he made it because he always served his community. So that is where I come from. And I give a solemn undertaking to continue here, to serve not only the people of the town of St. George, but all of the people of this country, regardless of political affiliation. You see, we come here People believe we have one election. We have 15 different elections. 15 elections. You are all elected by people individually in your communities to represent them. 15 elections we have. But you know, the British system told us we need to come together and huddle together, and you have your party whips. Fortunately for me, I am free of that for now. I don't know where the future is going, but for now, I am free of the party whips. I am free of the shackles of the party, but I am still shackled by the interests of the people. That is the shackle I wear. When I stand here, I am shackled by the people's interests. So it gives me, for now, the liberty to speak things as I see them and as I believe the people see them. So being an independent has its benefits. Mr. Speaker, I just want to say this in closing. Our parliament must be a place of contending ideas. History develops because we have contending ideas. Contending ideas within the groups, contending ideas between the groups. The parliament must be that place where these ideas are manifested. So we need more discussion on issues. And I've said that. I've talked about the committees, you know, and I've talked about the need for us to have the bipartisan committees, the need for us to discuss major issues collectively. Because when you come here, the party whips are in place. I mean, you know, when you talk about health, I mean, the party whip has already whipped you into shape. But in the committees, maybe the party whips have not whipped you into shape yet, so you have to say aye when everybody else say aye. But let us find a space where we can all discuss as 15 independent persons. So why not the committees? I say it all the time, and I get tired myself of saying it, but I keep repeating it. So, for example, on transportation, I am delighted that the issue of transportation has come to the fore. I have said it for years upon years, that we must treat transportation as a pillar of our economy. I would like to see us, Mr. Speaker, find a way to bring that into a parliamentary discussion. Why do I say that? Imagine the amount of man hours. Get an economist to do it. The amount of man hours lost every day with people stuck in traffic. You come from Granville recently and get caught up in Bolio, and we are not blaming anybody. I'm not saying the government is responsible or this government. I am happy that it is being seen as something important to address. You know the amount of pollution that is caused by the cars idling for hours in traffic. In other words, let's just not see it as you're getting late for work. You're being late for work, costing the economy much. And imagine the impact on productivity. Productivity. Let us treat transportation as a pillar upon which the whole of the economy rests. Let us talk about agriculture plus tourism, not agriculture or tourism. Let us have that discussion free of the parliamentary whips that whip us into shape. Let us talk about foreign policy. What more can we do to leverage our place in the world? Let us talk about how we address the issue of the Cuba embargo. Look, it's been, Mr. Trump has come back and reimposed Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism, which we all know is not true. What does Cuba give us? Cuba has never given us a terrorist. Go to any hospital in this region and it is filled with Cuban-trained doctors. Despite the embargo, despite the pressure, Cuba has done what it, so much. And in this room, we have Cuban-trained, we have Dr. Modest, Cuban-trained doctor. We have my dear brother, the foreign minister, studied in Cuba. The minister of finance studied in Cuba. And this is only in our parliament. I say, can we do more? We go to the UN every year and we put the line in the speech. Is there anything more we can do? Let us talk. And you know what? If we get bipartisan support, we feel stronger in doing it. Cuba needs our help. We must rise to the occasion collectively. Mr. Speaker, our National Development Plan, and I will end on that note in a minute. We have a National Development Plan. I want to commend the new National Party for that National Development Plan, and I want to commend the other side for highlighting the National Development Plan when they assumed office. But are the people involved? Can you say to me that the people of this country are aware of what is in the plan? Does the plan need updating? Maybe if we can come together to look at the National Development Plan as a people, it will serve us better. Those are some of the issues. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, constitutional reform. And I also want to commend the NNP for taking that up on 2 occasions. The British gave us a constitution in 1974. Do you believe they were trying to help us develop? Does anybody in this room believe that the constitution was aimed at helping us develop? We have to develop that constitution so that we develop. But we can only do if we sit together. Let us find a way to develop our... Look, when you hear about the U.S. amendments, when you think an amendment, this amendment, that amendment in the U.S., when they had the Constitution, they have continually amended it to upgrade it to fit modern times. You know, Mr. Speaker, you know, there are a lot of issues that we don't realize we are unable to progress on because of the shackles that our Constitution places on us. So, Mr. Speaker, this Parliament must not be a rubber stamp. This Parliament must be a place of active debate. When I am here, fortunate enough to be free of the party whips, fortunate enough to be able to speak only on behalf of the people for now, and I plan to use that for as long as I have that to ensure that we address issues that some may feel restrained in raising. I will raise them because I believe, based on my interaction with the people, the issues that I raise and many more are issues that we need to discuss going forward as a parliament. And let us stop making the people believe all we come here and do is fight. So, you know, they sit outside waiting to see who can win the war today. Let us make the people win the war by us collectively working on behalf of the people. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for sitting me in this position. I thank you for recognizing my contribution. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've known you since I came into the Ministry of Agriculture. So whenever I see you, I remember nutmeg trees and cocoa trees, because that's what we spoke of. But I thank you too for your service, and to the parliamentary staff for the wonderful service that provided to me over the years, and I look forward to our continued cooperation for the next several years, months, days, whatever it allows me in this Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member for the Tongue of St. George, and may I just remind our visitors that no applauding is allowed from the balconies. Right? The noise is going to come from the chamber. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. Yeah, the applause and then the table knocking will come from the chamber. Please.
Item 14, motions.
Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Resolution for the purpose of Section 73 of the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Act number 19 of 2024. Whereas it is provided by Section 73 of the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Act number 19 of 2024, hereinafter referred to as the Act, that the Minister may, by order subject to affirmative resolution, amend the schedule to the Act. Whereas pursuant to Section 73 of the Act, the Minister proposes to amend Schedule 1 to insert additional statutory bodies to which the Act shall apply, and whereas it is expedient that the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Amendment to Schedule 1, Order 2025 be approved by Parliament. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Amendment to Schedule 1 Order 2025, as set out in the schedule to the resolution, is hereby approved by the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Government Business. Resolution for the purpose of Section 73 of the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Act, number 19 of 2024. Honorable members, the question is, whereas it is provided by Section 73 of the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Act number 19 of 2024, hereinafter referred to as the Act, that the Minister may by order, subject to affirmative resolution, amend the schedules to the Act. And whereas pursuant to Section 73 of the Act, the Minister proposes to amend Schedule 1 to insert additional statutory bodies to which the Act shall apply, and whereas it is expedient that the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Amendment of Schedule 1 Order 2025 be approved by Parliament, now therefore be it resolved that the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Amendment of Schedule 1 Order 2025 as set out in the schedule to this resolution is hereby approved by the House of Representatives. All right, I sense there is no debate. Oh, which light is this? Is it Honorable MP for St. Andrew Southeast? Is the light on? Okay, yours is off. MP for St. Andrew Northeast?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a small contribution on this motion in front of us here today, Mr. Speaker. This motion is seeking to add additional statutory bodies to this pension fund, the act that was passed sometime late last year. Mr. Speaker, this act was very controversial, and there are many learned individuals who have deemed this to be unconstitutional. Whereas the act gives the minister to make changes and updates, we were hoping for additions that will reflect the satisfaction of the unions and the people they represented or they represent. We were hoping that this act would have additions to include the desires of those who would have been impacted. However, Mr. Speaker, this motion brought forward is to add additional workers to this pension fund, one that has been so controversial. So, here we have workers who were of the belief that they will fit into the one public service that was proposed to them. Now, and I'm not going back to what was already debated, but it's important to re-emphasize some of the controversial issues that this act had in it, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the workers believe that they would have benefited from the 1958 pension law. That is what they believed. However, a new pension fund is created and they are dissatisfied with it. So now that we are using this motion to add further workers, we were hoping for different additions to this fund. Mr. Speaker, government has to contribute an additional 3% to the workers' pension fund as proposed by the Act. There is a question. How will the additional revenues be raised? Will there be additional taxes on the backs of workers to raise these revenues? These are important questions because additional revenues have to come from government to contribute towards this fund. We must also realize that this is just a savings plan. What you put in is what you get out. Nothing more, nothing less. Therefore, I ask the question, what happens when the worker outlives that fund, that savings in the fund? What happens thereafter? So these are the things I was hoping the motion would have been brought forward to include, so that the workers or those who would be impacted by it will feel more comfortable and satisfied by it, Mr. Speaker. Not just come in and add additional workers. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we have experience in the past where many workers have saved into pension funds before, and those funds, for whatever reasons, went bankrupt. Can government guarantee these workers today that if the fund goes bankrupt, that government will be responsible for the amount contributed to that fund? These are some of the questions I have, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable MP for St. Andrew Northeast. MP for St. Patrick West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning to you. Good morning to everyone on both, or maybe three sides of the House. Happy New Year to all in the House and in Grenada as a whole. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to support this resolution. I've been a member of this Honorable House for just a little over 2.5 years. And I'm extremely pleased to be part of a government that has seen it fit to be proactive and to attend to matters, to attend to fellow citizens who have been marginalized, who have been neglected, and who, over the decades, have been forced to wallow in poverty simply because they were not considered to be established workers.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, very few things in this life are perfect. And it is ridiculous to sacrifice the good, to throw away the good, to reject the good in pursuit of the perfect. Mr. Speaker, this new pension arrangement takes care of people who previously had no coverage. Governments in the past have simply just ignored them, and we could easily have let the status quo prevail without a whimper from anyone in this House or in society at large, because I've never seen anybody demonstrate for pension rights for the unestablished workers. So what we are showing, Mr. Speaker, is that we are concerned about the well-being of our fellow citizens who, after having served the country well for decades in many cases, have now something to look forward to. Mr. Speaker, to say that what you put in is what you get out is a total fallacy. Mr. Speaker, if I open an account in a bank or a credit union and I put $10 and somebody else contributes a further $10 to it, don't I now have the ability to access $20? When we speak, Mr. Speaker, we must recognize that the whole world is listening.
Correct.
That children are listening to us. And as the honorable member from the town of St. George said recently, I'm not quoting him, but just paraphrasing, we have an obligation to stick to the facts and to not oppose for the sake of opposing. So I commend the honorable member. Mr. Speaker, it is quite fitting that every category of worker, whether they work directly with central government or with a parastatal institution, to be given reasonable and decent pension coverage. And therefore, I'm extremely happy to support this new measure, this resolution, so that our people who labor for years, decades in some cases, now know that they can retire with a degree of comfort, knowing that if they go to the poorhouse, is to visit somebody who was not covered by the pension plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP for St. Patrick West.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to make some comments. Once again, I want to wish every member of this House a happy and prosperous New Year and make it very productive, if I want to add to that. But also to say that I rise on this occasion to support the motion fully that deals with the amendments so that we can actually have our brothers and sisters in the statutory bodies and other state-owned enterprises being part of this new pension plan. I do not want to repeat what my colleagues would have said about, you know, what you put in and what you get out, because that's not true for sure. Because that fund would be a fund that is entitled to basically earn income or interest on it, and so that dividend or interest should be shared or will be shared among the workers at the end of the day. The question was also raised, Mr. Speaker, that if you die, what happens to your fund that you would have put into that pension fund? We have made it very clear, abundantly clear in the last sitting, that whereas the current 1958 pension plan does not provide for you as a pensioner to allow your spouse and family to receive an ongoing pension thereafter, this fund provides for you to receive, or your spouse or your dependents to receive whatever you are due as your benefit under this fund. So let us clear that once and for all. Mr. Speaker, it also concerns me when I hear people say that, you know, that the fund is a risky business and so on, and they talk about other funds that would have collapsed over the years. It is nothing new that pension funds that was defined benefit funds in the past for companies as well as governments, some of them would have failed. In fact, accountants who have done a lot of work on those things will tell you that they have come across several companies that would have failed in terms of providing a defined benefit for their staff. And so it is touted throughout the world that the approach of going with a contributory pension fund has superseded, in most cases, the defined benefit pension plan. And I'm saying that to say that we have tried everything in this world, and we know for a fact that companies who do not have prudent guidelines in place could possibly fail in terms of catering for their workers. But this bill that we are talking about has put in place measures to ensure that there is a committee established on the law that is guided by the legislation to make sure that people's funds are protected, invested properly in not risky ventures, and as such. There are examples throughout the world which shows that if the fund is managed properly, it can live forever. And so, I don't want to put cold water on this bill and say that, okay, it would be a risky thing because government is involved in it and so on. In fact, government has basically put in place that they would provide the financing of the operations of the fund for a period of 5 years before that fund is able to basically run itself free from all these issues and so on where you don't know whether or not you're going or you're coming. So I want to basically join my colleagues to say that this pension fund is not only one that will basically protect those who are not receiving a pension right now. And those who are receiving one right now could basically say, well, oh, it's not a problem. But I think we should also look at our colleagues who have not been receiving a pension because they found themselves on the wrong side in the public service, meaning that they wanted to establish public servant and were not in receipt of a pension at the end of the year. So let us join and support this bill to make sure that all our colleagues and established colleagues, the temporary ones that we call them, be beneficiary from a pension at the end of their life in public service. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, MP for St. Patrick East. I now invite the MP for St. Mark to the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise also to make my contribution to the resolution as presented. Mr. Speaker, I just want to seek clarity on a matter that was raised and maybe to also share clarity. I heard my colleague here mentioned that one can outlive the amount of money that is lodged in the pension scheme that should cover them. I didn't hear or say that what happens if the person dies. So I think, I don't know if she picked it up that the member for St. Patrick West was saying, but I think that needs... St. Patrick East, sorry, was saying, and I think that needs to be clarified. It's not if the person dies, but if there is a certain contribution from government and the worker, and the person goes into retirement and there is not enough money in the fund, and the concern is there, if there is not enough money in the fund to cover that individual as well as other individuals, then what happens? Mr. Speaker, I heard the member for St. Patrick East and the Minister for Finance say that government has recently taken a decision to cover the fund for the next 5 years. Well, that, as many other things that government does, has remained top secret until now. So maybe we can see some official document to support that, because we on this side haven't seen it. And I dare say I haven't heard the public say, well, at least we're covered for the next 5 years. Because the reality is, Mr. Speaker, that any fund could have problems, could meet difficulties for whatever reason, whether it's mismanagement and whatever seemed to be a secure means of raising funds at one particular time, at one particular instance, could in another instant turn out not to be so secure. And therefore I think the member for St. Patrick East and the Minister for Finance and of course the other side, including the Prime Minister, I think they have a responsibility to explain to people how the government would ensure that these people are covered. These people are covered for certainly for a period of time, and I haven't heard that, and I think it would be very good. Maybe the resolution could have included that the fund will be covered for 5 years from the government's coffers, I think all of us would have been happy with that. So we're not criticizing the government's attempt to provide pension, which is what the other side seem to be interpreting and seem to be focusing on. But we're saying that there must be some kind of security or reassurance, something reassuring that says to the people, yes, more money, because this is money that persons would have catered for to do other things. And of course, you must protect yourself, protect your pension, protect your future. So there's nothing wrong with people contributing. But there's something wrong if people are not assured that there's a backup in case something goes wrong with the fund, that there's a backup to protect them should something untoward happen. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP for St. Mark. Honourable Prime Minister.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while I was at the Roman Catholic Church in P.T. Martinique on Sunday, the learned member of Parliament for St. Patrick West said when the priest indicated that the service was a special service, I think every third Sunday, the church focuses on the word, and the priest challenged members in the congregation, including the honourable member of Parliament for St. Patrick West, to, indicate to the public a biblical verse that he was fond of. And he said, he that kept it is still tongue keeps a wise head. I still challenge him to find the biblical quote, the actual reference for this. But when I was in Presentation Brothers College, one Mr. William Steele, deceased, may his soul rest in peace, who was my physics teacher, once said to me, and I quote, "The silent fool is often taken as a wise man." Mr. Speaker, when we come to the House of Representatives, we owe it first to ourselves and to the public to make sure that we don't just simply come and throw things out and say we're asking questions and say we want clarity when we ourselves make no effort first to seek clarity or to educate ourselves before we speak. Mr. Speaker, and I really didn't want to speak. I didn't even expect, as you said, that there would be debate on this. This is simply a resolution asking to add the T.A. Marshall Community College, a statutory body that is not by any stretch of the imagination entitled to any pension under any of the pension acts. This has nothing to do with public officers. The Planning and Development Authority is statutory body. The Grenada National Stadium Authority is statutory body. The Grenada Cultural Foundation is statutory body. So when we come here and say, you are telling me a teacher at TAMCC has expectations that he or she will be paid under the 1958 Pensions Act, or that the Stadium Authority, which didn't exist in 1958, that the workers hired by the Stadium Authority would be having any expectation that they would be paid under the 1958 Pension Act? I mean, come on. So, Mr. Speaker, this is the kind of disinformation, misinformation, and fake news that people talk about. We have to do better than that. So that's the first premise. Second, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance covered it, but I think it's important worth repeating. This is a pension fund. The money is being segregated, taken away from the control of central government. It is being placed by law as a trust fund And trust funds have certain implications. The trustees would have a fiduciary responsibility to manage those funds for the beneficiaries, i.e. the workers. Mr. Speaker, I don't want us to underestimate the importance of this. The existing 1958, what we call pension, there is no segregation of, there's no fund. There is no fund. The only fund that exists in here is the consolidated fund. And when all previous governments from 1984 onwards decided that they were not paying the pension, what happened? When you have structural adjustment or whatever financial issues the government going through, the first people that don't get paid are pensioners under that type of system because they are working, so they can't strike. They have no negotiating tool. It's happening right now in the United Kingdom. So there's no security in the 1958 pensions. There is none. There is no segregated fund. There is no trust fund. There is no security. The government isn't putting no money aside. And make no mistake, Mr. Speaker, if you work for 15 years or 18 years, if you do not meet the minimum length of service, according to the job, you still have to dead. If you're dead, you're not getting nothing. If you want to resign and move on, you're not getting nothing. I'm saying nothing deliberately as opposed to anything. So, Mr. Speaker, the existing pension system only has security in the hope that you meet the minimum length of service, whether it's 22 or 26 and a half years or 20 years or whatever the case is. And you don't have to hope you have a solvent government. Or worse yet, or better, a caring one. Because you had a solvent one before June of 2022, but they didn't care. So they refused to pay it. And we paid it. And let's make no mistake, let's not pretend. When we got into office, Mr. Speaker, the Pension Reform Act that eventually came here, and all of the groundwork towards the same pension reform legislation that we passed there was already done by the new National Party administration. So don't come here and try and deceive the people and lie and pretend that this Pension Reform Act somehow miraculously happened after the election. You had already retained the International Monetary Fund to do all of the reform work, to do the exact same thing that we've done. So tell the nation the truth. Tell the public servants that you are never going to pay them that $75 million in retroactive pension. You are going to try and institute pension reform and not pay the retroactive pension. So when I walked into office, the IMF already had the question and the work done, which the Ministry of Finance already had. So why do we have to do this? If the pension is good, it is good. Are we okay with teachers at TAMCC having no pension fund? Or the Planning and Development Authority or the Stadium Authority? There are other statutory bodies that we have to look at. GAFIN and all of these entities. Are these people not working? You think this is a benefit to me? It's not a benefit to me. I'm not a public servant. Just like my learned and distinguished friend there, by the sweat of thy brow I shall eat thy bread. If I don't work, in fact for lawyers they say you work until you're dead. So there's no personal benefit for us in advocating this. So when we talk about country, we genuinely care about the people who work. Let us give them what is due. Let us help. Nothing in life is guaranteed. So are we going to say because there's a risk of having a pension fund that you don't have one? The distinguished former president of the Senate is sitting here, a lifelong, probably the most renowned living trade unionist in the Caribbean. He would not have said to me that because there's a risk that the pension fund at Caribbean Agro or Grand Lake may go bottoms up if the guys don't manage it properly, that we shouldn't put in the union agreement that there should be a pension agreement. No. So I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, there really is, in my view, nothing else to say that. In fact, there'll be more orders seeking to add more statutory bodies to this, because we understand pension. The strength is in numbers. The strength is in numbers, and it is the strength in numbers that will ensure that there is no such thing as outliving the pension. right? Because what the pension fund is going to seek to do, Mr. Speaker, from its investment perspective, is invest in things that will create employment, so that those who are working and contributing to the fund can help assure those who are already retired that they will continue to earn a pension. That is the link between the young and the old. And I say this repeatedly, you could only go to places in small countries, relatively speaking, like the Netherlands, and you'd see how they've been able to use their pension funds to drive the economic development of the Netherlands and to make it a far more successful country than it otherwise would be. So, Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying is, this is simply meant to add to the already existing cohort of public workers, statutory bodies. I think we went further to say we are going to encourage private employers, particularly small private employers, who would otherwise be challenged in having a pension plan, to come on to the scheme. And then finally, Mr. Speaker, again, you know, we can't deliberately mislead the public. And we owe it to read before we come and talk. A pension plan that is now being set up has administrative costs associated with it. It has set up costs associated with it. What the government is saying is that we, the government, will undertake to pay for the 5 years all of the administrative costs associated with the setting up of the pension plan. That's all we're saying. What is this thing about cover and food? I mean, what is this? Someone who's joining the plan now, the plan is now being set up. The trustees, the trust fund, people have to be appointed, they have to be paid trustees' fees. We are saying we'll cover all of these administrative costs so that it does not come out from the pension fund itself. Therefore, guaranteeing that at a minimum for the first 5 years, there is no cost associated with the running of the pension that will be paid by the pension fund itself, and that the government is going to underwrite that cost. And I want to make one final point about we talking about guarantees and so on. The government, the cabinet of ministers, in my absence, because I wasn't in cabinet on the day, took the decision to pay past service contribution, 100% of the past service contribution for all employees. The recommendation was 50 from the actuary. So, just so that people understand what past service contribution is, we're saying from the date you started working with the government when there was no pension, when no contributions were being made on your behalf, the government is still going to pay that contribution. In some cases, that means 10, 12 years, maybe even more. So when we start talking about we care about people, and we care about poor people,
I put it on.
I mean, this is simply, Mr. Speaker, the right thing to do. For the benefit of the people who work for and on behalf of Grenada. I hope, Mr. Speaker, that I've answered the questions that were raised. Thank you.
Right, I noticed the light of the MP for St. Mark. Was it a point of order or something?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No. And I think you spoke before.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
So that's why I asked, why is your light on again?
So should I sit to answer or should I stand to answer you?
No, my question is, because once you make a contribution, that is it. So I'm not quite sure if you are finished.
Mr. Speaker, no. According to our standing orders, there are other situations where someone can rise again after having spoken.
That's why I asked you.
I was rising on a point of order, but you didn't notice.
I ask you this. Okay,
you didn't notice, Mr. Speaker, and so I let it go.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So, I don't know, in that situation when you don't see, you know, the microphone or something.
Yes,
like
I didn't say like my head was.
I would just like to ask here, Mr. Speaker, what do I do?
Well, the way it is.
Now it's done and it's gone.
Correct. And the way it is, if the speaker doesn't see the light, that's it. Is when the speaker eye catches the light. Right? So I said to you, I'm sorry that I didn't pick up that the light was on. So you could have posed the question to the speaker on the floor. Yeah?
Mr. Speaker, I cannot pretend to understand, but you are the one in charge, so I will let it go. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, like others who went before me, let me use this wonderful opportunity to extend to you and your staff and all members of Parliament, those who are viewing and listening through you, Mr. Speaker, a very happy and productive 2025. And may God bless all of us for this new year. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of right things to do, I just want to say this. It might be right to do something, but there can be several better ways to do it. So not because it's the right thing to do means that there isn't a better way to do it. And also, Mr. Speaker, that it might be even better when listening to the alternative views and opinions of people, not just people in this house, but very ordinary people too. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, when my colleagues rose to speak, one of the first things that they pointed out was the concern about consultation. Mr. Speaker, I too share the same views that when this resolution came, this was an excellent opportunity to consider the concerns, the real issues that have been raised over the past weeks by people who will be affected and people who care. So let's minus this side of the house where people don't have wisdom, where people don't know better. And let us minus, we can't read, we don't read. Let us just eliminate this for the time being. And let us just consider that there are union representatives who have raised serious concerns. There are lawyers who represent unions who raise serious concerns, the same concerns that the unlearned people on this side have raised. Mr. Speaker, there are workers. As a matter of fact, a member of the opposition was reached out to by a group of workers asking for a private Zoom session to discuss and to explain certain aspects of this. So, Mr. Speaker, when we speak, we are not just expressing our personal views. I listen to the other persons on this side of the house. And every single view that was presented this morning represents a view and a concern of workers in the service. And so that is why, Mr. Speaker, at the least, we can listen and note and not classify who is intelligent and who is bright and who is wise and what the preacher said. Mr. Speaker, we have a responsibility, and this is why we come here. We didn't come here to shut up. We didn't come here to be spoken down to. We came here to represent people, Mr. Speaker. And so what we are sharing, I'm not sharing any personal opinion this morning, Mr. Speaker. It is all the concerns of people who would be affected by this. So fundamentally, I have absolutely no reservation in statutory bodies being added on to this fund. No reservation. But it doesn't deny the fact, Mr. Speaker, that there are some major concerns. And if those major concerns could be addressed, then they too, the members of statutory bodies, the workers of statutory bodies, they too would benefit. And so, Mr. Speaker, I want to highlight a few of those concerns. Mr. Speaker, we've heard, for example, the unions contemplating taking legal actions. Where would this fund be? What would be the status of all of this if we go back to the court? And that is why consultation is so important, because you reduce the possibilities
of this matter going back to the court for a number of years, and then who knows where we will be. Mr. Speaker, at the last sitting, I raised the point of the importance of fiscal assessment and fiscal reporting. Reporting the data so that we can analyze. You would have analyzed, you present, we analyze as well. Mr. Speaker, so it is unfair, even to the worker, that there's no data presented, no fiscal assessment, no projections, what this is going to be in the next 5 years, possibly. But, Mr. Speaker, representatives of the government making loose statements, for example, that a worker will get 80% of their last salary. Officials of the government, and I'm saying this is nowhere in the legal document. And if it is established that it is a percentage of somebody's last salary, which is not, according to the law, then at least somebody present that additional data to the people who are the legislators. We were told we are just legislators. We just come to pass laws. No, Mr. Speaker. In passing laws, you want to be informed. You want to have sufficient data and knowledge to pass the right laws. Else you're going to be passing laws in a vacuum. That's dangerous. And so, Mr. Speaker, the concerns are real and genuine, and I'm surprised the sort of response to concerns and genuine issues that are raised. So when we speak about categories of workers, Mr. Speaker, there are several workers, 10 years in the service, categorized as new entrants into this. You know, it was said that we lied to the people. Mr. Speaker, if we lied, then how do you categorize, how do you define a campaign promise that says, as soon as we get into office, we're going to make everybody permanent? How do you define that? How do you define the promise that says all workers in the public service, we would have one public service, no more contract work? Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying is that at the end of the day, the issues are real, the concerns are real, and we don't dismiss people in that way. So, Mr. Speaker, new entrants, physical new entrants into this fund, we are concerned. And while we are saying, for example, in the statutory bodies, that they never had before, but how do you compare that, Mr. Speaker, to a public officer who was in a pensionable position, acting? Mr. Speaker, you can't treat both so closely equal. So even if you say, for example, they get 3%, 5%, whatever the case might be, what does that work out to? In some cases, $300. Mr. Speaker, so we have to at least listen to the real concerns that people have raised. So it's been said, Mr. Speaker, this morning, NNP did nothing. And this is good, so let's just move ahead with it. Well, there's good, better, and best. And so if we can move good to better, then let's do that. But let's go back to 2018, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, the union and government had an MOU. And that MOU, Mr. Speaker, persons were getting 70% of their last salary on exiting the system. Mr. Speaker, there was just one issue that the union had with the government on that MOU and that arrangement that was in place. And that was the issue of gratuity. That was the issue of the formula for the payment of gratuity. There wasn't an issue with pension. So when it's stated over and over and over that the previous administration never paid pension, we came and paid pension, Mr. Speaker, well, obviously that is a lie, if we're going on the true definition of what is not true. Because in 2022, the government of Grenada was paying on their payroll 2,200 pensioners with a budget of $75 million. So we can't say it is true that NNP wasn't paying pension. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, credit was given for the engagement of the IMF wisely so. So maybe the wise people were before 2022. Wisely so, because you are getting into, which is why we are here with this problem right now, Mr. Speaker. Because the formula that was to be developed then was with an understanding of the implication of the court ruling. So, Mr. Speaker, when the decision was taken, as a matter of fact, let me just step back one. Before the court ruled, Mr. Speaker, the NNP took a decision, the NNP administration took a decision to pay. So the NNP did not wait on the court to decide. The NNP took a decision, engaged the union, and decided to move. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the Humlin Armstrong case and the results and what happened thereafter, how could anyone say, even before the court ruling, the actions taken by the NNP administration, we did not care about pension? Mr. Speaker, this administration then, 2022, to me, is the biggest demonstration of a genuine interest to address the issue of pension in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. The ruling was in 2011. Under an MDC administration, absolutely nothing was done. It was the NNP that came back and gave a commitment, but not just a verbal commitment. Action was taken to start paying persons who were affected. Mr. Speaker, this morning I say to us, it is okay to differ. It is okay to have different ideas, but to call one another liars when the truth is so clear, it's unfortunate. So, Speaker, the issue of outliving the fund. I hear a lot of things said about investments. Well, we can only speak for sure on what people put in, because we don't know, as well, let me put it this way, we all know that you can invest, but it doesn't always turn out that you get the kind of return on investment that you expect. And so the only thing we can speak to with an assurance, with guarantee, is that of what workers put in. And as it is, let's just use an example. A worker who goes on no pay leave for very good reasons, let us put it this way, and is not making a payment to the fund, is that worker treated the same way as they would have been treated under the 1958 Act if they were to retire? So, Mr. Speaker, when people raise that there are issues and concerns, it is genuine, and that is why they must be taken in that spirit, discussed, reviewed, go back to the drawing board. It's okay to say we go back to the drawing board and maybe there's this one little thing that we're going to add or we're going to subtract, because the concerns are real. So you have workers, Mr. Speaker, who are now having 3% deduction. NIS is going to increase another 1%, but check the consumer price index. Every time it comes out, there's an increase upwards. Food, medication, and other items. So we are saying their concerns are real. So when you make it sound as simple as they put $10, I mean, how do we trivialize this thing to that point? They put $10, we put $10, so you have $20. Well, what happened when the $20 finished, Mr. Speaker? We cannot trivialize it in that way. And so if workers have concerns, we have to pay attention to those concerns. The protection of the fund. No, we don't read. Mr. Speaker, we're hearing this morning that for 5 years the government is going to cover. And there's a hope. There's a hope, Mr. Speaker, that's what I heard. There's a hope that the investment would generate sufficient fund that if something goes wrong, workers would not be affected. Mr. Speaker, we are extremely concerned, and we would have wished that there is some kind of clause by which the government takes some more responsibility as it relates to the protection of the workers' investment. We are happy that you put a board and you have people and, but many projects, many initiatives that would have failed, unions would tell you that they lost significant resources because they invested in various plans that they were confident would work. They invested in various insurance policies that they were confident when they look at the board, when they look at the management structure, they look at all the systems, they had absolutely no doubt that it was a great investment. And you ask some of these people right now about the funds that they've lost. So if someone raises a concern about protection of the fund, I believe it should be treated as genuine. So, Mr. Speaker, this morning, as I said, fundamentally, the addition of those persons to this plan, the fund, I don't think any person on this side has an objection. But we are saying that there are some basic things, there are some critical things that remain major concern, which is why one of my colleagues described this as a savings plan. It is very different to a pension plan. Very, very different. And so we are still hoping that at some point that the government would take all of those concerns raised. And if there is a way to come back to this House at some point, and whatever they consider to be genuine, whatever they consider to be useful, taking not just our concerns here that we've raised, but those of the workers, those of the unions, people who are learned, legal professionals, Mr. Speaker, take all of those, sift through, and there must be something that can move this fund from great to greater, and that would make everybody happy, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MP for St. Andrews Southeast. Now, I'm seeing some new lights. I'm not sure if there's a change of mind. I saw the MP for South St. George light on before, and Tongue of St. George, but I'm seeing a new light now, so I'm not sure. Honorable MP for St. George Northeast.
All right, thanks, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues, and Happy New Year, as mentioned by everyone speaking before me. Mr. Speaker, in listening to this debate, which is unfortunate, it is clear that debate on this side of the House is in line with the contents that is before us. What we are debating this morning is to essentially widen the pool of people in the fund. And so we are talking about adding additional statutory bodies. We had the opportunity to debate this bill last year. That has passed. Mr. Speaker, the concerns by the opposition, though it sounds nice, though it's a good soundbite PR-wise, and it could make a little headline here or there and give the PRO some work to do, these are not concerns, Mr. Speaker, that is going to change the benefits that is to be derived to the workers. The issue, for example, that the member just raised about cost of living, the government responded by increasing minimum wage, 1. 2, there are always continuous negotiations for wage increases for workers. So the argument to put it as if for the rest of the 15 years, it will be the 3%, and oh God, every day price going up and so on, is not making any sense practically. That's why the unions now should stop focusing on the partisan debates and focus on how do they get the government to understand how much they should be getting out of these new series of negotiations that is to be derived. That's 1. 2, Mr. Speaker. The honorable members on the opposition side keeps making this argument over the security and safety of the fund. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Prime Minister made it clear that the new, or rather the benefit to the security of the fund now is 1, it is now enshrined by law that there is to be resources set aside from the consolidated funds. Prior, and this is very clear, prior, there was no budgetary allocation unless the Ministry of Finance put it, because they have to pay, to specify that there is a fund to pay pensions. This new pension arrangement will introduce that. So on the basis of security, it is, again, it sounds nice as an argument, but if you dive into it, what we have existing or had existing prior to what we are proposing now is better and is more secure. And we have to accept that. So, Mr. Speaker, I just want the members on the opposition side, use your platforms wisely. Don't come to the House every time and frustrate the process just to create the perception that the unions riled up, workers riled up, lawyers riled up, and so on. Again, and I want to end on this note, Mr. Speaker. When the former administration was in office, with all the nice things I just heard there, and if I didn't know better, I would say, well, that era might have been a progressive era. Demonstration left, right, and center. The largest sets of demonstrations. So to come here now and pretend, I don't know, I get up this morning. Today is my birthday, by the way, Mr. Speaker. I ain't seen no demonstration against the... I ain't seen no demonstrations against the pension bill. So I am saying, Mr. Speaker, from a realistic standpoint, it's just a light moment, but from a realistic standpoint. And you know what I want to express to the opposition? The government is welcoming discourse, intellectual discourse, yes, but discourse on improvements. But when you are coming with the partisan arguments, which you labor in every day about, you say it should only be one public service. You destroy the public service. You destroyed it. With the 3 for 10, you destroyed it. With these temporary contracts that you issued all over the place, and we have to now come and fix it. So let us have an honest discourse, yes, but let us have one that is deep and focus on the solutions based on facts, and get everybody to understand that it is not who does it, but it is the right thing for the people and the government of Grenada. Carriacou and Petit Matney. So I want to end on that.
Thank you, MP for St. George Northeast. MP for the Town of St. George.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be brief. I want to recommend, I know the debate has been going on for some time, this sitting and the last sitting of the House. And there are concerns. I think everybody acknowledges that. Some of the concerns were addressed, but there are concerns. I just want to make a recommendation in line with what I had said earlier when I spoke, that, you know, we can follow the British in some things. But one of the things done in the British Parliament would be to issue a white paper on some important issues like this. Because there are many questions that go unanswered, and not everybody will have the information. That is a fact. So if on matters like this, a white paper can be issued to submit it to discussion, and that is after setting up a bipartisan committee of the House. This is an issue that has plagued us for years, if not decades, Mr. Speaker. So I just want to recommend, not to prolong the debate, the majority will have it passed, set up in the future, and it can still be done in this matter. Have a white paper issued. The trade unions have concerns. It may be, we may be able to deal with the concerns, but if we set up the white paper, set up the joint committee, issue the white paper, we can hear the concerns, we can hear recommendations, and we can still proceed with the way the government is proceeding, but at least the people who are involved would have their concerns satisfied. And it may be, as one member on this side said, that some of the concerns that are raised are addressed. So, Mr. Speaker, I don't want to prolong the debate. The debate has gone on for quite some time. In fact, when I was Minister of Labour, I was in the middle of all of this. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very much aware of what took place over the years. But I think going forward, we must treat these major issues for what they are. Major issues that need for us to sit together in the committees, I say, where we can have this discussion, issue a white paper so the people and the interested parties, the unions, business community can see it, so we can have informed discussion on this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP for the Town of St. George. And Business?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank members of this Honorable House for their contributions to the debate on this motion. This motion, Mr. Speaker, basically was seeking to amend Schedule 1 to include the Grenada Cultural Foundation, Grenada National Stadium Authority, Planning and Development Authority, and T.A. Marichu Community College on the list of bodies, government entities, to be included and eligible to join the pension fund. Now, Mr. Speaker, I really do not wish to prolong this any further because I believe that we might have done even injustice to this discourse. And I say this because there is a certain element of ill-discipline when it comes to these matters. I say this because this is a motion to include 4 entities, government-controlled entities, on the schedule. And we have substantially, in 2024, discussed, debated the bill passed in the upper as well as the lower house of Parliament. And this morning, we are seeing a replay of the said debate, literally, Mr. Speaker, saying the same things that were said in December. And that is why I call it a certain element of ill-discipline, because this is not a substantive reason why we're here this morning. Though important, it is not a substantive reasons. And so, of course, I can respond to quite a lot, and I can say quite a lot. But there is really no reason to do that because we have substantially covered this bill and successfully passed in 2024. So, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding that, I still want to take the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to call upon us to, 1, study the documentations when circulated, and let us remain relevant to the debate, relevant to the specific bill or resolution in question, and that would add to the quality of debate emanating from this House and help us to carry out our responsibilities in a much more efficient manner. That being said, I wish to thank my colleagues on both sides of the House for the contribution to this bill, and I now commend it back to.
Thank you, Leader of
the
Committee
resolution. Sorry.
Business. A resolution for the purposes of Section 73 of the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund, Act Number 19 of 2024. Honourable members, the question is, whereas it is provided by Section 73 of the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund, Act Number 19 of 2024, hereinafter referred to as the Act, that the Minister may by order, subject to affirmative resolution, amend the schedules to the Act. And whereas pursuant to Section 73 of the Act, the Minister proposes to amend Schedule 1 to insert additional statutory bodies to which the Act shall apply. And whereas it is expedient that the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund amendment of Schedule 1 Order 2025 be approved by Parliament. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Public Sector Employees Pension Fund Amendment of Schedule 1 Order 2025 as set out in the schedule to this resolution is hereby approved by the House of Representatives. Those of that opinion say aye. Of the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it.
Item 15, bills.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to introduce for its first reading a bill for an act shortly entitled Water Resources Management and Regulations Bill 2025.
The bill which seeks to provide an institutional framework for the sustainable management, conservation, controlled allocation, development, use and regulation of the water resources in the state of Grenada, shortly entitled Water Resources Management and Regulation Bill 2025.
Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the relevant standing order of the House be suspended to enable the bill to be taken through all its stages at this sitting.
Honorable members, the question is that the relevant standing order of the House be suspended to enable the bill to be taken through all stages at this sitting. All those of that opinion say aye. Or the contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. Indeed, the ayes have it. Leader of Government Business.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the second reading of the bill.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill be read a second time. Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill, the Water Resources Management and Regulations Bill of 2025, seeks to provide an institutional framework for the sustainable management, conservation, control, allocation, development, use, and regulation of water resources in Grenada, Carriacou, and PG Martinique. Mr. Speaker, thank you. This bill also seeks to divest NAWASA, National Water and Sewage Authority, of its current management and regulatory functions in relation to the state's water resources. It empowers the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PERC, to now provide regulatory oversight to the unit in its management of Grenada's water resources. It also establishes a tribunal for persons who are engaged, who are aggrieved, Mr. Speaker, by any decision concerning the grant, refusal, or conditions attached to an appeal. Mr. Speaker, this particular bill contains 6 parts and 56 clauses, so it's a relatively long but very important bill. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will seek to address certain aspects of the bill that I believe that the population need to be aware of as it affects the regulation, use, control, and allocation of water in the state of Grenada. This particular bill, Mr. Speaker, will also result in the amendment of the National Water and Sewage Authority Act, Cap 208, and the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission Act, number 20 of 2016. Mr. Speaker, those we will deal with subsequently as included on the other paper today. But part one, Mr. Speaker, of this particular act treats with a short title and also the definitions, the important definitions. Clause 4, Mr. Speaker, and as I mentioned, I'm going to skip some of it because I want to focus on some of the more pertinent ones that the population needs to be made aware of. So clause 4, and in particular clause 4.1, contains the declared policy of the government of Grenada relating to water resources. And the policies, Mr. Speaker, include ensuring the orderly and coordinated development and use of the state water resources. And Mr. Speaker, one could easily understand that there has been a call by the general population of Grenada, especially during the dry season, especially when we have long dry spells, that the government of Grenada, and in particular Nawassa, needs to do more to conserve water and to ensure an even distribution of our water resources so that in the dry season we have sufficient water to service the population. But you'll see, Mr. Speaker, the structure of this bill, how it speaks to the management of these important resources to assist us to get to a place where we can be properly advised as to how we control this particular resource and ensure that our householders and population in particular is well served. So the policy continues. It speaks to conserve and protect water resources of the state for the benefit of present and future generations of Grenadians. Clause 5, Mr. Speaker, mandates that the Act must be interpreted and applied in a manner that promotes the following principles. Water resources should be managed in an integrated and sustainable manner. 2, water, Mr. Speaker, as a basic human right, a need, and as such, domestic use shall always be given priority in the context of the allocation of this resource. 3, the gender equity component, in which our female folks, Mr. Speaker, to be included in the decision-making process and the management of the resources as to how we allocate and how we manage and how we plan for the use of the resources. Clause 5.2, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the principles to be guided by if a person is exercising jurisdiction under this Act. And in particular, principles as such. 1, the polluter pays principle. Also, the precautionary principle. The principle of the ecosystem integrity. The principle of public participation. So, Mr. Speaker, the polluter pays principle speaks to cases where people pollute water, for example. They are made to pay for the management costs to restore in case that there is some element of pollution. So we want to ensure, Mr. Speaker, because we are told, Mr. Speaker, there are instances where people who have farms just spray chemicals without regard for what happens and the dumping of waste and different things. So, Mr. Speaker, we get into a stage where the management of this resource, scarce resource, will be properly taken care of. The stewardship, Mr. Speaker, surrounding the management of water will be given top priority. The precautionary principle which speaks to measures to be taken to prevent or to minimize the harm, even if there is not a full scientific certainty, any measures to be taken if there is any harm to be done to the storage or the flow of water. The principle of ecosystem integrity. Ecosystems should be free from human manipulation and should function and be structured in a natural way so that we do not unduly manipulate or interfere with the ecosystem, because both plants, animals, human beings, we all have to function within the society. The principle of public participation. People who are affected by decisions should be involved, Mr. Speaker, in the process of decision making. Clause 7, Mr. Speaker, establishes Water Resource Management Unit as a government department to manage state water resources. So this, Mr. Speaker, is very important, because a unit, Mr. Speaker, will be established within the ministry which has responsibility for public utilities. And of course, Mr. Speaker, the minister with responsibility for public utilities shall be the line minister for this particular unit. So there will be a unit set up and properly staffed to actually oversee this this particular resource. Clause 8, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the director and other officers who will be appointed by the Public Service Commission to function within the department, to function within the unit. The director will be the person responsible for managing the affairs of the unit, and the unit will be staffed accordingly. The director, of course, Mr. Speaker, as appointed by the Public Service Commission, will have the responsibility to advise government as the chief and principal advisor as far as the management of the resource is concerned. Number 9, Mr. Speaker, clause 9, seeks to empower the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, to have the oversight of the unit. So, PURC, Mr. Speaker, will be the regulatory body that regulates the functionalities and the behavior of all entities treated with water. All right? PURC will oversee, Mr. Speaker, the commission, the functionalities of the commission. Mr. Speaker, I noticed that some management personnel, directors and so from NAWASA, they joined us, and apparently they had to leave. I know that they came in an hour ago, so I think they tried to time the bell, but I guess maybe we ran over time, so they had to leave. But we thank them for being here. Some of the staff are here with us, so I guess they'll bring back the message. So clause 9, Mr. Speaker, continuing. So I was saying that that PURC, Mr. Speaker, provides oversight to the Commission and ensures that the policies of the government in relation to the management of the water resources are implemented by the unit in an effective and efficient manner. And it also advises the unit on such matters relating to resource management, water resource management, as the director may refer to the Commission or as Commission sees fit. So any matters that is referred to the Commission, he would give such advise to the government as he sees fit. And clause 10, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the functions of the unit. The functions are as follows, Mr. Speaker: advising the minister on matters relating to policy, identifying and protecting potential sources of water, and of course, Mr. Speaker, identifying water sources is important, and the policy surrounding the development and the use and conservation of water, Mr. Speaker, are critical as a small island state, Mr. Speaker, with small landmass. It is important that we are able to conserve and have strong policies that guides that process. And of course, promoting a national policy for the provision of water in the state of Grenada and ensuring the effective execution of that policy by the entities responsible. Also, Mr. Speaker, advising the Commission in relation to water related emergencies pursuant to Section 24 of the Act. Because, Mr. Speaker, from time to time, there are going to be emergencies. There are going to be times when restrictive use of water may, based on what is happening. And so, during those emergency situations, Mr. Speaker, the Commission, the PERC, the regulatory body, would have to, of course, advise the Commission accordingly. Sorry, the unit, may have to advise the Commission accordingly. Advising also the Minister in relation to gathering grounds pursuant to Section 14 of the Act and exercising the planning function for the use of that water resource. Section 12, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the vesting of property and the right to the use of property and the flow of water in the state, except only insofar as the private rights has been established under the abstraction license and permits. And we speak to the abstraction license and permits a little later. But, Mr. Speaker, it is important to note that presently these resources are vested with NAWASA, and so the vesting into the unit would not have to happen, and this will provide for the proper regulation of the use and the management of water in Grenada. Clause 30, Mr. Speaker, mandates the director to cause the unit to prepare a draft master plan to be approved by the Commission on the water resources of the state. And, Mr. Speaker, again, one must appreciate the importance of having a master plan for present and future use and present and future generations of Grenadians. Because, Mr. Speaker, we have periods where we have quite a lot of rainfalls, and rain apparently is not falling the way it used to fall, according to seasons. But we are recognizing, Mr. Speaker, when there are dry seasons, when times designated as dry seasons, we are actually getting rain. And times for which we know to be wet season, sometimes we get in lots of sun and sometimes very dry spells. And so that master plan as to how we conserve water, how we prepare for long periods of droughts or even flooding, Mr. Speaker. What do? We have homes, a lot of water falls onto the roof and into the drains and flood areas. What do we do with all of these excess water when it falls? So we have to now prepare, Mr. Speaker, to be able to conserve and use water in a more responsible way. So a master plan, Mr. Speaker, must be developed to be able to manage that resource in a proper way so that in turn, Mr. Speaker, present and future generations can benefit. So pursuant to section 3 or subsection 3, in preparing the draft master plan, the unit will also be empowered to collect from any source data and information relating to water resources, or they're empowered to get those information from different sources or from any source as it sees fit. To consult, Mr. Speaker, and obtain data and information on any water resource from persons, organizations, agencies, or departments of government or local authority as the director thinks appropriate. Also, to undertake studies and investigations and to carry out such other activities as may be necessary or relevant to the preparation of the draft master plan. So, Mr. Speaker, again, this subsection empowers the director to be able to get all necessary information to enable him to properly, him or her, to properly plan for the use and conservation of water. If the Commission is satisfied with the draft master plan, it must, subject to subclause 7, parliamentary approval of the draft master plan, by notice published in the Gazette, declare the draft master plan to be the approved master plan by notice published in the Gazette. So, Mr. Speaker, what this is basically saying is that the master plan is not a document that will be just be created and used internally. It is something that we must publish, and there must be some measure of publication in the newspaper so that people, Grenadians, be aware as to what our plans are in relation to the master plan. Clause 14, Mr. Speaker. Clause 14 speaks to gathering grounds. Gathering grounds are lands that are declared to be protected forests or protected reserves under the Forest, Soil and Water Conservation Act. That's subclause 1. If additional gathering grounds is required, Mr. Speaker, the minister acting on the advice of the director, the minister shall delineate the area and by order publish in the Gazette and at least one other newspaper in circulation in the state and specify the boundaries, Mr. Speaker, that's where the delineation has happened. All areas which are declared to be protected areas under the National Water and Sewage Authority Act, Mr. Speaker, shall also continue to be protected under this said act, subject to provisions of this act. And all areas which were declared as catchment areas will also continue, Mr. Speaker, to be catchment areas under this new act. Clause 15 speaks to the empowerment of ministers acting on the advice of the director, the chief forestry officer, and the sanitary authority to protect areas around gathering grounds by issuing an order to protect the quantity and quality of water in any gathering ground. Prohibited or regulated acts include placing, depositing, or discharging within the area of material or any kind that is likely to impair the quality or significantly reduce the quantity of the water or the storage capacity of the gathering ground. So, Mr. Speaker, this, Mr. Speaker, is seeking to ensure that no contamination happens in those specific areas. And there is a penalty, Mr. Speaker, in case that happens. There's a penalty of $3,000 or imprisonment for a period of of 2 years. Skip a bit. All right. Clause 22, Mr. Speaker, deals with the discharging or disposing of any organic or inorganic matter or waste, including water containing such matter, into a water resource.
It happens to all of us. Low on cash and in need of money right away. Play Instacash Monday to Sunday and there are no draws.
So what you saying? No numbers to choose from?
Nope.
And no draw sessions to wait on?
Nope.
And we can play it anytime and any day?
Yep. Including Sundays. Instacash. Ask for it by name and choose from a wide variety of games as low as $2 and win instantly. It is fast, it is easy to play, and you win cash right away. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Good afternoon, viewers and listeners. This is the National Lotteries Authority's Daily Pick 3 with Multi-X Midday Draw. It is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. I'm your draw hostess, Leslie Ann Johnson. Supervising the draw, Ms. Makiba Bean, representing RSO and Company Limited, accountants and advisors. Quick reminder as usual, there are 4 different bet types in this game from which you can choose. They're called inline, mix, pair, and backup. It pays to play Daily Pick 3. Let's see if you are a lucky winner. Good luck to you. All right. Our first number. 1. Second number. 6. Final number. 1. All right, so let's recap. The first number is 1, followed by 6. The final number is 1. So let's go for now to our multi-X draw. Good luck to you. All is free play. Congratulations to our 41 winners. From our mid-morning draw, the total payout was $6,650. The playway draw comes up next. We'll see you soon.
Hi, I want $10 on playway, $20 backup on pick 3, and cash for each, please.
Okay, are you adding multi-X to your bet?
Yes, multi-X, all of them.
Smart. Best value bet. Backup and multi-X. You cannot go wrong.
Don't matter the bet, multi-X all of the daily games.
With multi-X added, your winnings can be multiplied 3 times, 5 times, even 7 times. So make it a rule. Add multi-X to all your playway, daily pick 3, and daily cash for bets every day and for every draw, and watch your money grow. Available at stores and online.
You heard it here. Multiply your winnings daily. Must be 18 or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Hello once again, this is the National Lotteries Authority's Playway with Multi-X Afternoon Draw. It is Tuesday, January 28th, 2025. I'm your draw hostess, Leslie Ann Johnson. With me once again is Ms. Makiba Bean. She's representing RSO and Company Limited, accountants and advisors. So in this game, you can bet from $1 up to $10, or you can bet in increments on any number or dream symbol of your choice, and being with a chance to win 24 times the amount you bet. That is $24 for every $1 spent. Value your dreams and win your way with Playway. So let's see if you are a lucky winner. Good luck to you. again, our play win number is 35. The dream symbol is Crapo. We go for now to our multi-X draw. Good luck to you. Multi-X ball is free play. Congratulations to our 310 winners from our mid-morning draw. The total payout was $14,976. The Daily Cash 4 comes up next. We'll see you soon.
Like family, it's always exciting when lottery players get together.